Be no love for me or Republicans for Kamala Harris today. In fact, I think the Trump campaign line today ought to be arsonist returns to scene of crime. I mean, look at the last 3.5 years.
As you know, on Friday, Kamala Harris visited the border in Arizona to show how important it was to her to maintain a secure border. She went right up to the wall, stood there, and talked to members of Border Patrol management for 20 whole minutes. That's right, 20 minutes. And I say she talked to Border Patrol management because the rank and file apparently have no interest in talking to her, considering the fact that for the last 3.5 years, she hasn't picked up the phone to talk to anybody from Border Patrol while she's supposedly the border czar. And let's not forget when a photograph of a mounted Border Patrol agent on horseback tried to rally some of the Haitian illegal immigrants who were crossing the border at the Rio Grande. When a photograph showing long reins on that horse was published, Kamala Harris joined the chorus of ignorant racist voices saying that that Border Patrol agent was whipping the Haitian illegal immigrant, which of course he wasn't. A full-scale investigation of that turned out that there was no evidence in any way whatsoever that that poor Border Patrol agent who was just doing his job was whipping anyone, let alone a Haitian illegal immigrant. But there's no apology from Kamala Harris or Joe Biden for drumming up that racist propaganda. So it's no surprise that the Border Patrol didn't want to talk to her. But in her 20 minutes, she got her photo op in front of the wall. Yes, the same wall that she called racist, xenophobic, and unnecessary. The same wall that she and her boss, Joe Biden, defunded from the first day they got into office, even though all of the supplies to finish the wall had already been purchased and were sitting there right at the border. Instead, they continue to collect dust and deteriorate because she refused to finish the job of securing the border wall. Yes, that's the wall that she stood in front of for her photo op to let everybody know how serious she was about border security.
There are consequential issues at stake in this election, and one is the security of our border. The United States is a sovereign nation, and I believe we have a duty to set rules at our border and to enforce them. And I take that responsibility very seriously.
Does she, though? Because those rules at our border have remained unenforced for 3.5 years, resulting in over 10 million people entering our country. And on Friday, the same day as her visit to the border, it was released by ICE that over 400,000 convicted criminals from other countries, convicted in their home country, had encountered Border Patrol agents at our border entering this nation illegally, and then knowing that they were convicted criminals, they were released to the American public. So how seriously does she take enforcement of our border laws? She takes it so seriously that she talks about it with great passion at her rallies. I mean, just look at this performance.
As president, I will double the resources for the Department of Justice to go after those transnational cartels and take action to stop the flow of fentanyl coming into our country, which is destroying entire communities.
Now, based on that impassioned promise that she would double the Justice Department's resources to go after cartels and stop the flow of fentanyl, one must only presume that for the last 3.5 years, she has stood in the Oval Office in front of the Resolute desk, slamming her fist on it, saying, President Biden, you've got to double the resources for the Justice Department to go after drug cartels and stop the flow of fentanyl. Why are you standing in the way of this, Joe Biden? Why won't you do what I'm asking? And no, she hasn't done any of that. Where the hell has she been? She's just a liar. She's a liar, but she's the worst kind of liar because she thinks you're stupid enough to believe her. But you're not. We know you're not. But she continued the lies.
We must have comprehensive immigration reform with strong border security and an earned pathway to citizenship.
Now, I just want you to know that Democrats like Kamala Harris, and sadly, a small handful of Republicans, for the last 25 years have been telling you the exact same thing. We need comprehensive immigration reform and a pathway to citizenship. Now, in 25 years, tens of millions of people have entered this country illegally, including about 10 million just under her watch in the last 3.5 years. And every time they are pressed to do their job, and let's be clear here, when we say do your job, we mean enforce the laws we already have. We don't need a new law. The law on the books right now is that you cannot enter this country illegally. It's against the law, and you should be immediately deported when you're found. That's the law. And the only response they've given you is, well, it's a complicated issue with many nuances, and we need comprehensive immigration reform to address it. And by saying that, knowing that it won't happen, they kick the can down the road for another 2-year or 4-year election cycle. 25 years you've been hearing this. 25 years. It took one president to say, screw comprehensive immigration reform. We're securing our border with a wall. And he built much of it, not enough. But he was the one who actually said, yeah, no, that's not something that we need. What we need is to enforce the laws that we've got. And look what they did to him. Look what they continue to do to him for daring to say that. Comprehensive immigration reform with a pathway to citizenship is basically a politician like Kamala Harris saying, yeah, I don't like the laws that we've got right now. I refuse to enforce them, and I'm going to do a damn thing until we get new laws that I get to write, that I like, and that's going to include amnesty for the tens of millions of people who have gotten here because I've refused to enforce the laws that we've already got. You know, Kamala Harris was appointed the border czar to get to the root causes of illegal immigration. And she thinks it's because Guatemala and Honduras have some crime problems. El Salvador, not as much because they've got a good president in Bukele now. And all they need is to get a ton of money from federal government coffers, from American taxpayers, that we can give to foreign countries so that they can make life better in Honduras or Venezuela or wherever the hell. Well, let me just be clear here. There's only about, 5, 6 economies on this planet that have a better quality of life, a better cost of living, and a better way of life than America does. Some would argue that no country on this planet has a better way of life and economy and freedoms that America has. So in other words, every country on this planet, for the most part, has a less robust economy, less robust job picture, and fewer freedoms for their citizens than we do. So based on that measure, as long as other countries have fallen behind America, we'll never fix the root cause of illegal immigration unless we either bring down our economy and our freedoms to match the rest of the world, or they all catch up to us. But in the meantime, they all have a right to be here, legally or not. Well, that's kind of unsustainable, isn't it? Of course it is. You want to know what the root cause of illegal immigration is, Kamala Harris? It's not giving more money to Honduras so that their corrupt government can pocket most of it. No, the root cause of illegal immigration in America is that we are not enforcing our laws, not enforcing our border, not deporting people here illegally, giving them free education, giving them handouts for housing, giving them clothes, giving them health care, giving them access to our schools. And, oh, by the way, when they do get here illegally, we're going to not only look the other way when they illegally get a job and take money under the table, but we're also going to promise them amnesty so they can stay here and be citizens. The root cause of illegal immigration is Kamala Harris and her party promising every election cycle that they're going to give them amnesty for breaking our laws. If you knew that a law was not going to be enforced, and if you broke it, you'll eventually get amnesty, then literally, honestly, what's stopping you from breaking that law? If you knew that a speeding law was not going to be enforced, and even if you did get caught on a speed traffic camera and they mailed you a ticket, but you knew you were not going to have to pay the fine and you'd eventually get amnesty for that traffic fine, then what's stopping you from speeding? That's your root cause right there. But you don't want to hear me ranting and raving about this every day. It gets tedious. Can I hand this over to the professional, please? Scott Jennings on CNN summed up Kamala Harris and this gaslighting that you're getting at the border better than I've seen in recent memory. Take it away, Jennings.
Be no love for me or Republicans for Kamala Harris today. In fact, I think the Trump campaign line today ought to be arsonist returns to scene of crime. I mean, look at the last 3.5 years. We've got the border has effectively been open, people flowing across. ICE today released information that there are 13,000 non-citizens convicted of homicide and almost 16,000 non-citizens convicted of some kind of sexual crime who are in the country right now. Only because we're in the shadow of an election is Kamala Harris trying to rush and pay some lip service to this issue as a tactical matter. Anderson, I don't think Harris should be trying to elevate this issue because this is the best ground from which Donald Trump has to fight. So, no, I think the Harris campaign is making a tactical mistake, and I think they have very little to say that the American people are going to buy on this today. Anderson, it's worse than that. It's not that it took them too long. It's that they actively worked to undo everything Donald Trump had done during his time in office. On the first day, they rescinded all of Donald Trump's border executive orders. The floodgates opened. All these people come rushing across. Then it becomes a political problem. And now at the end of the election, they want to blame it on Donald Trump. For her entire career, she has wanted a more permissive immigration structure. When she ran for president before, she wanted to decriminalize border crossings. In her heart of hearts, she wants a more liberal, permissive immigration structure. And in his heart of hearts, Donald Trump wants to crack down on the border. That's why when you look at the CNN polling this week, Trump is far more trusted on immigration than Harris. That is not going to change because of this visit today or anything she says today. The die is cast on this issue. If I were her, I'd want to bury this issue, not make it more prominent. But hey, if she wants to have border events, I think Republicans will rejoice because it'll increase the prominence of this issue for the last month of the campaign.
Boy, he is so spot on, especially that last point. I think this was the biggest blunder of the Kamala Harris campaign so far, maybe Tim Walz. The fact that they proactively went down to the border and did this photo op thinking that it was going to get her good press and actually turn the narrative. It's like, see, she cares. She's doing something about the border, when it gave Republicans an additional reason to talk about her failures there and the Biden administration's failures there. But it also even forced outlets like CNN to have to talk about it. They don't want to talk about the border. They know that it helps Donald Trump, but now they have to do their perfunctory segment on it because she was there. What a blunder. And Jennings, so good. He's so good. We don't deserve to have Scott Jennings on CNN. He's the only reason to watch there. In fact, that was just the tip of the iceberg for a great weekend of Scott Jennings. They did a quick preview of the Tim Walz, J.D. Vance debate tomorrow night. And, look at this devastating review of Tim Walz as the running mate for Kamala Harris and what he's brought to the table so far.
Consequential. Second of all, Walz is a buffoon. I'm sorry. This guy, he's the only school teacher in America who brags that none of his students can get into an Ivy League school. He's had one consequential press interaction with our Dana Bash, who asked him about the fabrications in his own resume. And his answer was essentially, me no understand words good. I mean, he's a buffoon. He's on a free ride for running under Harris. He gets very consequential.
I love the other panelist on there as he calls him a buffoon, and the one's like, Scott, we do not need the name call here. Please, buffoon is the tip of the iceberg with Tim Walz. Honestly, buffoon is being gentle on him. Everybody knows he's a joke. He's a punchline. Even Saturday Night Live couldn't run cover for him this weekend. Even they had to recognize what a buffoon he is. But the whole idea, Scott, we're better than this. Oh, really? I'm sorry. I've lived through 8 years of Orange Man bad. Okay? I'm pretty sure you're not better than this, CNN. Oh, and speaking of CNN and Tim Walz, one other quick segment here from this morning. This is amazing. This is a CNN reporter. They're trying to lower expectations for this vice presidential debate. Do you know who's playing J.D. Vance in the practices and the rehearsals for this debate? Think about it. J.D. Vance is a retired Marine. He's, from the Midwest, came from a scrappy Appalachian town, pulled himself up by his bootstraps, got his undergrad at Ohio State, went to Yale, made millions in business investments, then wrote a book, then became a screenwriter. Now he's a senator. Now he's the running mate for vice president. Kind of a man's man, kind of J.D. Vance is. So of all the Democrats they could get to sort of exude the essence of J.D. Vance, who did they get? Pete Buttigieg. Pete Buttigieg is the manliest man they could find to play J.D. Vance. And apparently, Tim Walz and Pete Buttigieg have been pulling some all-nighters together, working on their debate prep. It's been grueling, up all night together, just the two of them, just sweating it out, pulling the all-nighter, working each other hard. Pete Buttigieg and Tim Walz. It's possible that Doug Emhoff has also participated, or at very least watched the process. Anyway, here's a report now. The Tim Walz camp have been leaking these lowered expectations for his performance tomorrow night to friendly media, meaning CNN. They say that he's very nervous. He's worried he's going to let down Kamala Harris. He's not a very good debater. I mean, he's run for Congress multiple times. He's a 2-term governor of Minnesota, but he's not a very good debater. But take a look at this report this morning, because it's super revealing about how Democrats, especially the Harris-Walz campaign, approach debates. Watch.
Even last week, I was in New York at a fundraiser that Tim Walz was doing at an apartment there. And he said, after I left the room, I heard he said to someone who asked, how's debate prep going? He said, look, I was trained as a teacher. As a teacher, we're trained to answer the questions. We tell our students to answer the questions. That's not what this is. So Walz really trying to fit himself into this somewhat awkward always thing of a nationally televised debate.
Did you catch that? And by the way, I'm watching the live chat. There is no truth to the rumor that P. Diddy has been giving any debate prep instructions as well from the jail. That's a complete out and out fabrication. I just want to make sure I nip that one in the bud. Did you see that quote from him? Boy, this tells you everything. As teachers, I keep forgetting. Is he a teacher? Is he a coach? Is he a sergeant? No, wait, command sergeant major, right? Or is he a governor? I can't, whichever hat he's wearing at any given fake time. Oh, no, wait, that's right. He's not any of those things. He's a communist sympathizer. As teachers, we are trained. When was the last time he was in a classroom? No, seriously, I'm sorry. I can't get past this statement starting with as teachers. When was the last time this man was in a classroom? Hasn't it been like 20 years? As teachers, we're trained to answer the question, and we train our students to answer the questions. That's not how this goes. Boy, oh boy, does that not tell you everything you need to know about how these people approach debates and go through debate preps. He is trying to train himself not to answer the question. In preparing for the debate against J.D. Vance, Tim Walz is currently trying to train himself to avoid the question at all cost and say whatever you can, but avoid answering the question. And let me tell you right now, before anything happens tomorrow night, I'll give you my prediction. The majority of analysts in Washington, D.C., and journalists and news anchors and people you'll see on television who are paid a ton of money, and sadly, I'm talking about the Republican ones too, the Republican ones. The majority of them will say, right now, my prediction, Tim Walz won this debate. Wow, he did way better than we expected. Tim Walz really emerged victorious. Tim Walz did a great job. Tim Walz did no harm, and that's really all he needed to do. They'll praise him for avoiding the questions. They'll praise him.